Hello and welcome to the Inspiring Life School podcast. This is your host, Frances Vidakovic, and on this podcast, I'll be sharing with you the most valuable strategies to live your one wildly beautiful and most precious life. Because this is it, my friend. In case you haven't guessed, when it comes to life, there's no rewind or pause button that exists. They say that the way that you spend your days is the way that you spend your life. So my one and only goal here is to help you stop wasting your time, stop holding yourself back in life, stop experiencing non-stop negative mind chatter, stop just dreaming without doing, and start living life fearlessly instead, with more purpose, focus, and intention. I sincerely want you to live life in a way that when you come to the end of it, you know deep down in your heart that you 100% gave it your all, flaws and all. This podcast is not about doing life perfectly. Instead, it is about experiencing and living life with more clarity and courage and truly appreciating this precious adventure that we are so blessed to be on. So if you're with me here today, it's time to stop spinning in circles, get off the hamster wheel for good, put your hands back on the steering wheel of your life, and finally start living life in a way that you won't later regret. With that being said, let's dive on in. Hello, my friend, and welcome to this episode, which is all about embracing the magic. So when I speak about the magic of life, it might seem as if I'm going a little woo-woo on you, but that really is the best way to describe to you what I'm going to be talking about in this episode. It's those little miracles, those little coincidences and magical moments that take place in your life that really make you think that something else might be at play. So I want to remove all the spiritual and religious connotations from this conversation today and really keep it super simple. I want to speak about the fact or the possibility that there are magical moments happening every day in your life. And what if this is true? What if the universe is actually here to support you in ways that you can't even begin to imagine is true? So I want you to take two quotes into consideration, and both are by the great and wise Albert Einstein. So the first quote that he shared was, "There are only two ways to live your life. One as though nothing is a miracle, and the other is as though everything is a miracle." And the second quote is, "The most important thing is not to stop questioning. Curiosity has its own reason for existence, and one cannot help but be in awe when he contemplates the mysteries of eternity, of life, of the marvelous structure of reality. And it is enough if one merely tries to comprehend a little bit of this mystery every day." So I want to share with you three stories from my life that I feel like really beautifully demonstrate the magic, what I call the magic of life, because there really is no other way to explain their happenings. Now, my kids always say that I take forever to tell a story, so I'm going to try to keep these stories super short and sweet. And the first has to do with the day that I got my son's wheelchair. So Jake has a degenerative neuromuscular condition called Charcot-Marie-Tooth disease. Even though he became fully dependent on this power wheelchair at the age of 12 or 13, it was when he started high school. He actually received the first power wheelchair when he was 6, because even though he could still potter around and walk, he needed the wheelchair to walk long distances. So on the very first day that we ever got the power wheelchair, I took my kids and some friends over to the Powerhouse Museum in Australia, and we had a great day. And when we returned to the car, it was the end of the day, I was still working out how to get this power wheelchair back into my car. I didn't have a wheelchair accessible car at that time. It was just a Ford Territory. I had this really long ramp. And so I put the power wheelchair into the car and I thought I clicked it shut. And obviously I didn't. Because what ended up happening just a few minutes after we were driving, just to give you some context, our Powerhouse Museum is located in the city. Okay, it's typically a really, really busy road. But on this day, I was driving on this typically busy road in the middle of our city. So you can just imagine what a city road would look like. And then I heard the most amazing bang, and the power wheelchair had fallen out of the car. Now, I really felt as if my heart had literally dropped out of me, because a power wheelchair is at least $10,000, a very expensive piece of machinery, that is so important to my son to help him get about. And here I was, I'd literally had it one day and had fallen out of the car onto a busy city road. Now, when I speak about the magic of life, it's because so many different things could have happened. Okay, it could have fallen onto its side. It couldn't fall onto its top. It could have been a million cars behind me that just literally ran it over straight away. And actually, now that I think about it, that it actually cost $16,000. That's the price of his first power wheelchair. But that didn't happen. Guess how it fell out? It fell out and landed exactly onto its wheels. And at that time, there was not one other car on the road in the middle of the day in the city. And at the exact time that I happened to drop this wheelchair out of my car, where it coincidentally landed on its wheels without a scratch to it, these 4 really massive, muscly guys happened to be walking past. And they saw what happened and they walked over to me. I'd literally stopped in the middle of a city road. They came up. And this wheelchair happens to weigh at least 100 kilos. And they each got aside and lifted it up put into the car, I closed it properly, and I went on. And when I speak about the magic of life, like I always reference this particular episode because there were so many like other alternatives that you would have expected to come into play. That it got run over by a different car, that it fell onto its side, that it got broken, that it was damaged. But that didn't happen. It landed on its wheels. 4 strong guys came past, lifted it us up as if it didn't weigh anything, put it back, and we were on our way. And so it happened like it transpired like in the space of a few minutes. And I was like, that feels like a miracle. It really, really did feel like a miracle. And I always say to my kids, like, well, they said, oh, it's just luck. It's just coincidence. But drive along the road and see how often you'll see 4 big mossy guys having to walk past at the exact same time as you. It happens so rarely. So for it to happen at the same time that I dropped the wheelchair out of the car, and if it had been just like an elderly person or some mums, whatever, they would have really struggled to get it back in. But these guys didn't. And so I always look back at that memory and think like that just feels like pure magic. And now for story number 2. So this one goes back a lot further in time. I think I was around 18 or 19 and I was taking my youngest sister. She was 12 at the time to her first concert. Okay. She hadn't never been before and we were going to see Boys to Men. And we had like sort of okay tickets. Like we were really far away from the stage, but we happened to be the front row or probably like towards the back. And not long after we settled into our seats, I had a man come up to us and said, would we be willing to exchange our seats for ones that were just a little bit further ahead? So of course, like I was a little bit skeptical, but I thought, just as close as we can get to the stage, I'm going to take it. So I said, of course. And so he gave me his 2 tickets, which I exchanged. He took ours and we went up. And as I was walking, I realized that we ended up literally in the front row in the middle of the stage. So you could not get closer. Back then there wasn't even like a barricade to separate you from like your seat to the stage. Like I was literally leaning against the stage. And as it transpired, because I went back to thank the man, he said that they'd won the tickets in a radio contest and like she was a bit nervous about being in that middle of a big crazy crowd. And so that was why he swapped the tickets with me. And so what are the chances of that? And you're probably going to say, well, it's 1 in 20,000 or however many people they were. But in reality, like the chances of someone swapping front row seat ticket for something that's so much further back, it just felt like a magical moment. And it was the most amazing concert experience for my sister. Back then, like I said, you were literally there. Like you could hold the hands with the band members and it was such an amazing night. But it does still feel like a magical moment. Okay. It was just such a weird experience, more than just luck and coincidence. It felt like something else was at play, magic in some way. And now for my 3rd story. So this one is not a positive story, but I wanted to share it with you anyway, because it felt like the universe was trying to tell me something. And I know when I say that, it probably sounds like it's really, really woo-woo, but this one actually just happened a year ago. So at the beginning of last year, my father-in-law was diagnosed with dementia. And this is probably in the middle of a year. This is just before he went to hospital. So this happened probably a week before he rapidly declined. I was working in my office exactly where I'm sitting now, and I heard my dog start to go crazy. So I've got a Doberman and a Cavalier, but it was the Doberman that was like really acting up. And I thought, okay, I've got to go check out what's happening. So I went outside, and in my upstairs living room, I noticed that she was barking at the window, and there were literally 2 birds sitting inside my house on the windowsill. Now I can't even explain to you like how far, like there's only one door that was open, the back sliding door, which was like really far away from this upstairs living room. There were no windows open, and even if there were, we've all got screens on our windows. So the only way that they were able to get upstairs to this particular living room was take this like weird super long flight from the back sliding door that was open. Now this is where I say that I'm 48 years old now. I've never had a bird enter the house, and here there were 2 upstairs, not even remotely close to the back sliding door. So I called my mother-in-law, who happens to live in the granny flat behind our property, and she came and helped me remove these 2 birds, okay, because I was a little bit freaked out about this idea. I think it's like anyone who's watched Alfred Hitchcock's Birds doesn't love this idea of having to go and pick up birds and take them out. But what ended up happening was once like she secured them, I think she got a little blanket and put it over, and then she caught them. We went downstairs, okay, with 2 birds in our hands, and we discovered that there was another bird inside the house. This one was perched like sitting on the edge of our dining room chair looking at us, and it had definitely not been there like 5 or 10 minutes before when I went to get her, like to help me take these other birds out. So there we go. Like 3 birds inside the house at one time. Like what are the chances? I haven't even had 1 bird before, and suddenly I have 3 birds in the house, and we got them all out. So why am I referencing this as a magical moment? It was just so bizarre, so weird. Like the odds of it happening feel like they're millions to 1. And I was so weirded out by it. Like I did the Google thing. Like, what does it mean when you have birds in the house? Like as if there is like a weird message it was trying to send me. And the first thing that I saw was that death was coming. And what ended up happening was that my father-in-law went to hospital, almost passed away that next week. He did actually last one more month, but he was literally like on death's door. And I know, like, I'm not going to sit here and say, okay, so those birds predicted his passing, but I did feel as if it was like something magical, something weird was happening. And I remember like when I read that prediction, death is coming, there was like this overwhelming sense of peace, like this is the way that it's meant to be. So these 3 stories to me do feel as if they're infused with just a little bit of magic, because there's no rational way to otherwise explain them other than luck. Of course, you could say it's luck or coincidence, but what luck doesn't feel as if there's just a little bit of magic involved too? So I just want to leave you with 2 questions. What if there are magical moments happening all around you all the time? And what if the universe is actually working for you rather than against you? What if it's working to support you? And what if this is true? Like, I've just decided to believe that magic is everywhere and miracles are everywhere and they're happening all the time. And it makes me feel great to think that you can choose to think whatever you want to, but just be open as the idea to this possibility that magic does exist in a weird and crazy way, and it is here to help you live the most amazing life. So if you've got any stories to share with me, I would absolutely love to hear them. But other than that, much love, and you know that I love and appreciate you all so much. Take care, and I'm going to catch you on the next episode, my friend. Thank you so much for listening to the Inspiring Life School podcast. I really appreciate you allowing me to be a part of your life. If you'd love to stay in touch, please know that you can always find me on Instagram at Vidakovic, or you can visit my website, inspiringmumlife.com, where you can sign up and receive so many amazing freebies that I've created just for you to help you implement all my teachings into practice. There you'll also find all my online courses, resources and programs that I've created to help you up-level your life in seriously the simplest way possible, so that you can ultimately create for yourself a life that feels simpler, lighter, and allows you to show up in a way that you love as your best and most authentic version of yourself. Now remember, this podcast is all about not just dreaming but also doing, because to create true sustainable change in your life, you need to be willing to do things differently. And that's what I'm here to support you to do every single step along the way, so that you too can begin to live your one wild and precious life with less stress, less overwhelm, less drama, and instead with 0 regrets. Finally, if this podcast resonates with you at all and you appreciate the content, I would absolutely love for you to show your support by leaving me a review on Apple Podcasts. I'm on a mission to help more people wake up to the preciousness of life and to help them live their days with more intention and purpose, and your review will help make this goal of mine possible. Well, once again, thank you so much. I have loved spending this time with you, and I look forward to connecting with you again. I am Vidakovic, and you have been listening to the Inspiring Life School podcast.